Good morning. We're live here, Landscape Talk. Hopefully, you're doing well. Have a great episode today. Going to talk a little bit about culture and the importance of that. Just as a reminder, if you're looking to grow your business, implement processes so your business can run effectively. You can grow your business and grow your profits. Check out LOS. It's an operating system with a peer group. So you get to tap into other people's knowledge and grow your business. So check that out. You can scan it in the thing, and there's also a link, in our episode. Today on the show we have Brandon and Dan. And I think one of the things that we wanted to talk about today a little bit is culture. So and some of these are buzzwords. You hear the word culture a lot. What does it mean? How do you make it reality? All these things are hard. First, let me say that there's nothing that's just easy without being intentional about something. But, I think Dan, you had a great, example and, from an interview. Obviously it's the springtime now. We're still interviewing some people, bringing some people on board. I think there's two things, we have three pillars that I think, and I love in, Brandon's, background. He has kind of our, some of our core values, but at the higher level, we have a saying, it's develop, deliver, connect. I think the connecting is kind of goes with the culture and some of the things that we'll talk about today. But I think it's a two-way street. So I think, when you look at hiring somebody, what do you look for? What do they look for? And, Dan, maybe you want to explain or share a little bit about your story, with the individual, and then just kind of how it connects to a little bit how we do things. And, hopefully people can benefit from, some of the conversation.
Yeah. So, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, if I'm interviewing someone or having someone come on board, the topic of company culture comes up and how that's something important to them. Maybe they've worked somewhere else in the past, or they're working somewhere else now. That's, maybe it's a big company, maybe it's not, but it's just the team camaraderie kind of thing, and the relationship between management and the field staff just isn't there. There isn't good recognition of guys that are doing a good job, that sort of thing. So oftentimes they'll come into the interview and that's something that they mention is a high priority for them. And so a couple of things that we try to do. One, in the springtime, we try not to bring on, a batch of team members all at once. We try to kind of phase them in a little bit. We have, our core team kind of coming out of the winter. And then as we're bringing some new people on in the spring, we kind of do it a little bit piecemeal, just so that we, have plenty of time to get them on board, get them trained, have time to focus on them and incorporating them into the team that we have already. Just make sure that it's a good fit for them. It's a good fit for us, and the team gets to know them a little bit. That's always important to have, when you work with guys that you that you actually get to know a little bit, it just makes the day so much better. So we try to do that a little bit, phase people in.
I think that's a great point. That connection is, a pillar. I think, we'll talk about these different things a lot, but it's one thing, when you're a company, there's a couple things. It's one thing to identify what you need to do. And then the other thing is you have to, actually do it. So I think, we fall into the category, I think, a lot of times of we know what to do, and now we just have to hold ourselves accountable to doing it. So connection is a priority for us, and we're always working to improve that and do that. So I guess, and I love the phasing in, because I think there was times before where you bring in 20, you have 20 people, all at once or something like that. And you really, when you look at attrition, a lot of times you actually couldn't connect with the people. So then they feel lost. Or I can think of even going to, networking events or whatever, when you don't know anybody, you're actually just looking for somebody to just like talk to you kind of if that's not your personality. Now, some people just talk to everybody, but I can just think of going into a company and you don't know where anything's at. You don't know anybody. Everybody else is making like, a joke here and talking about things and all, and you're just kind of isolated. So I think that's really, really important. I guess, for Brandon, what do you think we do well in this area? And then I think the other thing to look at is what do you think, what are we still working to improve, in this area? Because I think it's important to look at both, people can learn from us both ways to say, hey, this is what we're doing well, but also, hey, we want to get better all the time. And, this is an area that we want to get better. And what can we do to continue that journey?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think one thing that we do well is like, obviously everyone that's like involved in our leadership team, does a really great job of like trying to take people under their wing as they come in and start. People that we have devoted to that, some that got senior guys that have been here for a while, they see someone new, they'll kind of reach out an olive branch and like talk to them a little bit, which I think is good. I think the one thing we want to keep doing and driving forward is just getting that to be everyone. Because like the more that people talk to you, the more comfortable you get. So like, in the case of like, if there's just one person that's doing it right, or maybe just a limited amount, and then that person's not there one morning or that one moment, you kind of feel lost again. Right. So like, you make a connection with that one person and then all of a sudden, maybe they have a meeting that morning or maybe whatever's going on and they're not there. Then you're back to feeling lonely, a little bit unsure. You feel out of place. You feel awkward. Right. Some people are very like outgoing. That's not a big deal to them, but that definitely happens. I can think personally for myself. My one son plays travel baseball, and we would have really liked him to be on this one team. It didn't work out for whatever reason, and then he ended up getting on this other team, which is fine. Somewhat of coaches that we were already familiar with, but like everyone else on the team is from a different school district and area. My son's the only one from his school, so he knows nobody. And like we vaguely know a few people, but not really. And then they all kind of know each other from before. So it gets real awkward for us. I feel bad for my son, and I just try to, encourage him to like, hey, just try to, talk to people and branch out and, cause they're, it's like, it's a little clicky, right? So like everyone's kind of like just hanging out. And if no one reaches out an olive branch, it just continues to get worse. And I think the longer that goes, the worse it gets. Right. So like, for us, it's like pretty awkward, and we could do probably a little bit more to like try to do a better job. But like when everyone else knows each other, and then you're kind of the odd one out, it gets like a little bit uncomfortable, and you don't really like enjoy going there. Like, oh great, we got to go to this, and you don't, you spend so much time at work, you don't want that to be a place that you don't want to go to, right? Everyone has work, right? And it's not like, yeah, it's my favorite thing to do, but you want to have a workplace or a place that you're going that you're not dreading going to, and you really enjoy, and there's people you can talk to. You spend a lot of time there. So that's something you want to enjoy doing. And that for me is just, a quick analogy on how I experience it, not only, outside of work. So we try to really make sure at our workplace we connect with people.
So what are one or two things that we can do better to continually improve that, but also somebody that's listening can say, I might be able to do one or two of those things as well to improve. I think there's a couple things. There's all different size companies that listen and tune in, right? So you have somebody that's like a smaller organization, and I feel like when you're just a one or two person truck and trailer, you typically don't have those issues because you're spending all day with the people. So like, I think anytime you're over, 2 trucks, 3 trucks, and even then that might still be small enough that you can do it. But I mean, anything over like a couple trucks or 2 trucks, what are just 2 or 3 simple things, and I'll check in with both of you here, that you can do to help improve that connectability, because I get, a lot of people can relate to that when you have they don't even know that they're doing it. So you may not even know that you have this group or this clique, but from the outside, it feels like that. So what are maybe just, maybe 2 things from each of you that you can do that somebody could implement right away today, listening to this show, say, hey, do this just to make people feel a little bit more welcome. Dan, I'll go to you.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, like, especially in the spring and sometimes in the fall, but like people that are joining in the spring, sometimes it can be a little easier because there's larger crews working together on stuff, and you can kind of say, like, okay, like, who's worked with who haven't you gotten a chance to work with? Why don't we like switch things up? Like, how about we have you like ride with this guy to the job, so you have a chance to like talk, get to know each other a little better, since you haven't worked together yet. You can kind of like adjust crews around a little bit in the spring while we're kind of doing bigger jobs together. Just make sure everyone has a chance to like get to know each other. That would be one thing. And then I know another thing that, again, sometimes if you're a real small operation, this might not make sense, but like having someone that's kind of like designated like company culture lead. So like we have a guy who came on not too long ago, but he's, like you said about some people are just naturally outgoing. This guy, just feel like, we haven't asked him to do this, but anytime he's around with the group, it's like everybody's talking, because it's just something about he just checks in with everybody, talks to everybody, and that kind of brings it out in other people too. So sometimes you have that person that just kind of naturally helps with that process. So if you have that person kind of designated, it can help with that transition. So.
But I think that's awesome. I think the idea is, assigning that person, like to be the person to help, greet people, welcome, that's a natural talent. I think that's really good. So yeah, what about you, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we do that I think really helps, like the whole bonding thing. And again, this might not be like right away, but we always do like a team day where we get together and, spend some time together as a team, which I think is like super helpful. That kind of helps people like mesh and like, peel back the layers a little bit of the onion and kind of just see, what everyone's about and, have a good time and just try to connect a little bit more. I think the other thing is just like, having a culture where people are like, understand that it's friendly and just say like, hey, this is like, we do have people that come in and start, just reach out, make sure you're like, you're connecting with them. We do the flex and stretch in the morning, which is like a group activity, and people kind of like talk and joke. So like, people can kind of get feel for the mood. They feel connected, I think, with that, because there's no like, oh, this crew's here or that crew's there. It's just like everyone kind of lines up at their cones. There's no order to where you need to be. And it just kind of creates this like atmosphere, I think, where like people get to be like involved in the group. They don't have to feel like isolated. And I think also one thing that obviously helps is, just trying to make sure that when people come in, we really like walk them through the process. We do the training with them. We spend time. We don't just say, hey, how are you doing, Bob? Shake their hand and say, here's a shirt. See you later. I think like, by spending some time with them, giving them a little bit of TLC, doing the training, and then like doing the handoff of them to, whatever team they may be with, and just making sure that, they have understanding. And then, the crew that they're joining, that foreman kind of like is like a mentor a little bit and helps them kind of get on their feet with the crew. And I think a lot of those things go a long way. And then like Dan said, if you have a guy that's naturally good at that, obviously we try to, get people into positions where they're successful and they have natural talent. So, he does a really good job of that organically.
I think the other thing that I, think of is, when one of the things in our flex and stretch, we actually designed it. Now, this is one thing that we're not doing great now, but like the way that it was designed at the flex and stretch was actually to play music. And I think music's something that brings people together. So I don't know if there's a way that we can incorporate that back into it, but whether we like get people like playlists or things that they like so we can just play it and it's already scripted. Cause like one of the things that's funny, like, I mean, there's like I'll listen to some Dua Lipa, right? Like that's my jam, right? I'll get into, I like a bunch of different things, but Dua Lipa can do, if that's even how you say it, I can get down with that, right? So the idea is like if I play my song, right? People like laugh, or somebody might be into Taylor Swift. You're like, this guy is in, this girl, whoever. You're like, I didn't think that. So then it just creates this camaraderie, like, you're a Taylor Swift fan. You went to the concert last week. What? You got front row. So like that's kind of the idea. Or you have somebody that's like DMX. That's my jam. So you just kind of start to get to connect with people. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I remember that was back. And any way you can create, connections at that time and just make it fun. I think that'd be something to try to get, back into the mix, because music does bring people together. And I especially think if it's like, if you would say like, hey, this is Tim's playlist, he might play Billy Joel and like the Bee Gees or like the Smokey Robinson or something. Yeah, I don't know. But then that's him, and it's like, wow, like whose playlist is this today? Guess the playlist, right? You could do anytime you can break that ice with some people, or even if there's some new people, I think that would be a fun game to play, is like guess the playlist or something. It's not long. I mean, our flex and stretch is 5 to 8 minutes. So, I mean, you can play one song a day, or just something, but I think that would help. The other thing that I thought of, which would be kind of, a little bit goofy, but is almost like creating trading cards with like, your hobbies or your favorite food or something that you can know. Because I know like when I go to a networking event or there's a group that I don't know, or people introduce themselves, somebody's like, oh, I like dirt bikes. And then next thing you know, that person goes over to the person and says, hey, what type of dirt bikes do you have? I ride dirt bikes. Then all of a sudden that bond. So I think as a company, in my opinion, it's trying to foster some of the things that stimulate conversations, like music, getting people's information out there so that people can relate to somebody. It's like, oh, and I'm not making this political, but like, oh, you like Biden? Me too. Oh, you like Trump? Oh, me too. Right. So anything that you can associate with people, with anything. And I think the political thing is just a funny thing, but like, I'm a Chevy guy. I'm a Ford guy. Anything, if you had that on the trading card, I collect cards. I'm in a band. Oh, you're in a band? Like I'm a drummer. I'm a DJ on the weekend, right? To me, that builds culture because it actually it brings people together. So I think those are some great ideas and some great things. And I think if you are a business, just think about these things. So I'll go to Brandon first. But what would be maybe your takeaway from today, or something that you would recommend somebody doing in their small business? And then we'll switch to the you can't make it up quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think any way that you can like make people feel comfortable, right? So like that's super important. Whether it's going to depend on your size of your company, but like if you're bigger, you can maybe appoint someone. If you're smaller, it's just getting that that core is like. Sometimes if you're a smaller company, that core is so tight, they make it a little hard for new people to come in, right? So like you got to make sure that everyone understands, like part of our philosophy here is allowing new people to come in and not stonewalling them. Just promoting a culture where people like, you want to have as much fun as you can at work because you want to have a good time. You spend a lot of time there. So it needs to be a good environment. Obviously you need to be productive and have fun, but we've heard a lot of things over the years where like the environment wasn't good. Management wasn't good. A lot of like yelling and screaming and stuff. So like we've really pushed to have an amazing environment where none of those things happen and people feel welcomed. Like that's always our goal, which in the industry of like construction type of thing, is not always the case. So, that's one big thing for us. And I think that's huge. Just making people feel welcome. Cause if you don't feel welcomed, you're not going to want to keep coming back.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, well, just real quick to touch on that. I've just in general, just in life, I've always considered that to be one of the best qualities that a person can have is just like having a welcoming personality, just the kind of person that like reaches out to people, just has that kind of energy that like makes you feel very approachable kind of thing. Like just in life, I've always considered that to be like a top tier attribute that someone can have. And it's the same with a company, of course. So yeah, I mean, making sure you take the time, like factor in time to, have a little bit of fun here and there. Obviously we got to get our work done, but we always try to like, we'll have like our team days where guys, go out to get wings or something after work, or, something quick in the morning, like play some kind of like quick game, have some kind of tournament going on. So just those kind of things really help, make the experience overall just more fun for everybody. So
I think people mention like ping pong tables. I mean, those are things like you can get. We mentioned that pretty recently, but like, ping pong table online is like $100. I mean, that would give a lot of trash talking and a lot of fun. So I mean, just think of things outside the box, simple. And maybe we get a ping pong table and just come in one day and just check it up, see whoever wins. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that keeps it fun. But it takes effort and time. So switch it over to you can't make it up. Anything that you've seen recently. If we have one, great. If we don't, great. But I'll just open it up to either one of you. If you had something you just can't make it up. Again, the segment of this is if it's your first time listening, we pick something that you just see, that you just look and you're like, you just can't make it up. They can't figure out, they need a manual to use a toilet, like a plunger. They strap down dirt. We have tons of examples. So if you listen to some episodes, you just can't make it up. So if you have things or your company does, or you've seen people when you're out and about, please share them, send them to us. We're building a database that we're going to have a bracket challenge where we'll see who has the best. But just, is there anything that you've seen recently in the last, a couple days, or, that you just can't make it up? So I'll just turn it over. If you have something, great. If not, that's great too, but I'll just check in.
Yeah. I mean, I can think of one with like all the rain we're getting right now. Currently it's like a monsoon where we're at, of course, first week of mowing, and it's just dumping rain all week. But one of the ones I've seen on the internet before that kind of made me laugh was like people shoveling and scooping like flooded areas of water, and then they dumped it over a fence, and it was a chain link fence. The water just comes right back through. So I mean, you can't make it up. You see that everywhere. You see people do dumb stuff. But yeah, like they literally were scooping flooded water up, put it over top of the fence like it was going to make a difference, but it was a chain link fence, so it just comes right back through.
You just can't make it up. Yeah. Dan, what about you? Anything?
I mean, something that comes to mind from real recently was I had a meeting just yesterday, just a sales meeting. I stopped out at a potential client's house. I always try to like sit down with them a little bit, go over like, some of the key questions, get the information we need so we can, get them good service. And so I go into this person's house, and it's just kind of like wall to wall with stuff just everywhere. And, she has one chair free for her and one chair free for someone else. So like I have a place to sit down, but then like she basically spends the first like 5 minutes trying to like explain to me how she's not one of those people that keeps too much stuff. Like, hey, I got this chair for someone to use. Like some people, they don't even have a chair for somebody to use. So
she was almost one of them.
Yeah. But to her credit, I had a place to sit, so it was a nice visit.
That's you can't make it up. People that think that they're not the person, that does the thing
Yeah.
that they're trying to avoid, right?
Yeah.
That's good. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back at it live. Check out LOS peer group landscape operating system to improve processes in your business, grow your profits. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon.